This Day in Sports History.
Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
And welcome back to yet another edition of This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Network. You can find more podcasts and more info at sportshistorynetwork.com. And this is Steve White, your host for This Dish, the podcast. It's August 25th, and on this day in 1946, Ben Hogan won his first major golf tournament. This was the PGA Championship held in Portland, Oregon. At this point, the PGA Championship was still a match play event. It wouldn't be a stroke play event until 1958. Hogan had been a professional golfer since 1930, when he left high school early as an 18-year-old to go play golf. There were a lot of lean years between then and when he finally won his first golf tournament in 1940. He was stone cold broke when he finally won his first tournament. And then he followed that up with 2 more wins in the next 2 weeks. Now, as Lee Trevino once said, pressure isn't standing over a putt to win a major. Pressure is putting for a $5 Nassau when you got $2 in your pocket. His 3 wins in 1940 gave him some pocket money and some breathing room. So here in 46, Hogan was the leading money winner on tour. He was playing some great golf. Maybe not the best golf he would ever play, that would come later, but still really good. In the quarterfinals, he beat Frank Moore 5-4, meaning he was up 5 holes with only 4 to play. He destroyed Jimmy DeMeritt in the semis, winning 10-9, and that set up the final 36-hole match play event with Ed Oliver. Good thing this wasn't a wrestling match, too. At this point, Hogan was 5 feet 8 inches tall and 135 pounds. Oliver had the nickname Porky and was 5 feet 9 inches tall and 207 pounds. It's also a good thing that this wasn't just an 18-hole match, because the trophy would have gone to Oliver. After the morning 18, Oliver was 3 up after playing the final 4 holes in 4 under par. Hogan turned it around fairly quickly in the afternoon round, with 5 birdies on the first 9 to go 2 up at the turn. Birdies on 10 and 11 increased his advantage, and when he rolled in his 8th birdie of the round at 14, Hogan was 6 up with 4 to play, giving him the PGA Championship trophy and a well-deserved winner's check of $3,500. It was the first of 9 major golf tournaments he would win in his career. In 1922, the scoreboard could not keep up with all the runs scored on this day between the Chicago Cubs and the Philadelphia Phillies. This was played at Wrigley Field, but it wasn't known as Wrigley just yet. In 1922, it was still Cubs Park and would not become Wrigley until 1927. The Cubs built a substantial lead in this one, scoring 10 runs in the second inning and then 14 in the fourth to take a 25-6 lead. But the Phillies chipped away at that lead, making things a little bit too close for comfort after putting 8 on the board in the 8th inning and another 6 in the 9th. It's not really hyperbole to say that the Cubs held on to win 26-23. Reports from that day talk about it being windy, but there were only 3 home runs hit in the scoring barrage, and all by the Cubs. The 49 combined runs set the major league record, and it's still the major league record for most combined runs scored, and that's likely to never be topped. At the time, the Cubs' 26 runs equaled the mark for most runs scored by one team. That mark would fall the next year when Cleveland would score 27 against the Red Sox. The 2 combined for 51 hits in this game, which also set the modern-day record. Interestingly, these 2 franchises would play another high-scoring affair in Wrigley in May 1979, with the Phillies winning that one in extra innings, 23-22. So here's a weird one for you. In many towns and cities in the 1900s, playing baseball on Sunday was illegal. Local blue laws prevented games being played on the Sabbath. Well, on this day in 1889, the curiously named Brooklyn Bridegrooms were in Ohio. They'd played 3 games against the Red Stockings in Cincinnati, but at this very particular point in time, Cincinnati did not allow baseball games on Sunday. Now, as recent as August 11th, 1889, there had been a Sunday baseball game in Cincinnati. So, we're talking just 2 weeks prior, the Red Stockings were playing on the Sabbath. Now, I couldn't find any reason why they were not allowed to play on this particular Sunday, but the Bridegrooms and the Red Stockings decided to make the 35-mile trip north to play a game in Hamilton, Ohio. This game was not a secret. Prior to it, a county magistrate arraigned both managers for violating the Sunday law, but, again, interestingly enough, allowed the game to go on. The judge must not have alerted the local constabulary, though, or maybe the law was just too confusing because nobody understood it. But in the bottom of the 4th inning, play was stopped when 18 police officers stormed past the gates, marched to the field, and proceeded to arrest every player. They were hauled in front of the mayor and fined $8.85. Now, that's 1889 money. That's equivalent to about $300 in today's money, which is a pretty hefty fine for playing baseball on a Sunday, especially when the local magistrate had given you the green light. The umpire for the game would have also been culpable, but he escaped arrest by mixing in with the crowd. There were an estimated 5,000 in attendance for this game, but a group of what we would now call Karens, but then was called the Law and Order League of Hamilton, were the ones who complained, leading to the arrest and fines on this day. Strangely, the Red Stockings played 3 more games on Sunday in Cincinnati after this date. Going back even further in time, on this day in 1875, a human successfully swam the English Channel for the first time. 27-year-old Matthew Webb was in the British Merchant Navy and so was familiar with water. He started his journey on the 24th from Dover, England. He slathered himself in porpoise fat and he dove off the Admiralty Pier. The waters of the channel were a bit chilly, but he was wearing a red silk swimming outfit and the animal fat also helped him a good bit. He paused to drink brandy and coffee and a spot of beef tea along his journey to keep up his strength and provide a little extra warmth. Like others who'd tried before him and who came after him, he suffered numerous jellyfish stings. The tidal shifts also made this journey extremely tough. 7 miles from his destination, the tide shifted, and it seemed to put Webb in reverse. But he kept on plodding along, and he walked onto the beach in Calais, France, a little before 11 a.m. on this day, after spending 21 hours, 45 minutes in the water. Officially, it is a 21-mile swim, but with the current and the waves pushing him off course, it was really more like a 39-mile swim. Once he returned to England, he was lauded as a national hero. The Daily Telegraph proclaimed, "At this moment, the captain is probably the best known and most popular man in the world." That would last for a little while, but as we all know, celebrity is fleeting. Sadly, his quest to stay relevant led to his demise. Several years later, he traveled to the U.S. and he saw the powerful Niagara Falls, and he came up with a new plan to showcase his swimming prowess. There was a powerful whirlpool downstream from the rapids. Now, his plan was to dive into the water, ride the rapids to the whirlpool, and then swim away from its pull. He figured it would take a few hours. Instead, this stunt took his life. On July 24, 1883, Webb went into the water, found the water and the whirlpool to be a lot stronger than he had anticipated, and he drowned. His body was recovered 5 days later. But at least on this day, Captain Matthew Webb became the first human to successfully swim the English Channel. And on this day in 1997, Kurt Warner threw 3 touchdowns but also a pick 6 in Arena Bowl 11. He was playing with the Iowa Barnstormers of the Arena League, but this was not his finest moment. It turned into a 55-33 loss to the Arizona Rattlers in the Arena League title game. Despite failed attempts to latch on with the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears, Warner's success in the Arena League led him back to the NFL, signing with the St. Louis Rams a few months after the loss on this day. It would be a little more than 2 years later that he was the starting quarterback for the Rams, leading them to a win in Super Bowl 34 over the Tennessee Titans. And time now for today's non-sports Did You Know? And this one, it's kind of mind-blowing. But if you shrank the Earth down to the size of a pinhead, the moon would be about 1.5 inches away, and the sun would be 49 feet away and about 5.5 inches in diameter. Now, the next nearest star would be 2,538 miles away. That's all I've got for you today. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.